Good afternoon, Andy Cooke.
Pleased to meet you, Martin, eventually.
I know it's been very nice to meet you too. Have you been
Thank
watching
you.
any of the videos? Has there anything come up that you thought that was interesting? Have you watched any?
And I saw Colin Campbell's one. I
Good.
watched that because I knew a wee bit about Colin's life up in the north through one of the players that played up there.
What's
Um,
that?
and so I was interested there. I look at them all. Kevin Stango, who seemingly put my name forward, he was one of my youngsters at one time.
That's brilliant.
Um,
And Gary as well.
he- sorry,
And Gary.
sorry, I didn't hear that,
And
Martin.
Gary as well. His brother.
No, I didn't. I didn't deal much with Gary. It was more Kevin.
Aye.
Kevin was he was a real scrapper. That was his nickname as far as I was concerned. I
You
had a
said
nickname for them all, but that's what Kevin's was. Uh,
scrap. What did he mean by that exactly?
just a battler on the court. I don't
Okay.
mean he was battling with people on the court, but the way he played,
Yes.
he was he was scrapped to the end.
That's
Uh,
kind of what I was like. I wasn't very good at the theory. I was a bit too quick. I tried to be a bit too quick, so I lost all the technique, but I was a scrambler. I would definitely say I was all over the place, right? It's good.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
good,
had
isn't it? Isn't it funny?
all kinds. Had the glider, the scrambler, the beast, and
Yeah.
the sugar almond, and I had a name for them all.
Did you? And I think it's kind of, I think Kevin's kind of game is kind of lost now. You don't see that. I don't know what you think, but I watch a lot of badminton on TV and on YouTube, and I see local people play. And the passion and the aggression that I had when I was growing up, and that I imagine in Kevin, I don't think you see it now. Really, there are occasional. There's a few players that are very passionate, but a lot of times I watch it and I think, how people are so cool on a badminton ball.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm losing
Um,
it at that point. Okay, let's start on with the questions. Your full name, please.
it's Andy Cooke, MBE.
Oh, I forgot about the MBE. Tell me, does that make you a sir?
No.
Really?
Just him.
Andy Cook MBE. And do you use that?
To use it more now because I've been asked to use it more now. At
Have
the
you?
beginning, I didn't really like using it. I felt you're sort of bumming a wee bit, and you no need to do that. But people,
How do you mean they ask you to? They ask you to do that? What happens?
yeah, just make use of it now. You've got it. A lot of people put a lot of work into getting it.
That's right.
So it's a wee bit insult to them if you don't use it. It's as if I don't care, but I do care,
Of
and
course.
I'm just a wee bit modest about using it.
I agree. Yeah, modesty. That's exactly. I know exactly what, and I can see exactly what you would mean by that. But I just wondered, do you get a phone call from somebody saying, "Excuse me, Mr. Cook, would you mind using the MPE?" Oh, very good. And can I ask your age?
I'm 83 years and 11 months old.
Wow, 11 months. And are you still coaching now, Andy?
Yes, I still unofficially coach. Yeah,
Wow.
well, obviously we're off just now with the pandemic and that, but when it's on, I want to be there.
And
Yeah.
how did you get to that? I guess is it the kind of thing, I suppose I'm kind of jumping here, but is it the kind of thing where you've taken somebody under your belt maybe even years ago and you've just kept on to make them develop them through? Is that the thing, or is it do people still come to you, or is it there's people that you're still coaching that you've always coached for years?
Well, it started off that I enjoyed playing. I played the Scottish circuit for a while, quite unsuccessfully,
Mhm.
but I was coaching people and taking them to the higher level by taking them to the tournaments. So I was playing the tournament when I was there,
Yeah.
and I found out eventually that I was enjoying coaching better than playing.
Yeah.
I just I just seemed to be that way. I stopped quite early as far as competition went, but I enjoyed training. I've always enjoyed training. In fact, the players that I did eventually take used to be frightened if I was going away anywhere in case there was a big hill or stairs or steps, and even swimming in the cold water. But they didn't like me going away in case I found something that this will do. This will make them play better.
Really? You're quite a strict coach.
Yeah, well, in that sense, yeah. I was never a hairdryer coach, so I don't think I ever lost the head of anybody, actually. It was more encouraging them just to get better.
And what do you
And
think about? Can I ask you a question about coaching? So, what do you think about? I mean, I talked to Bob Ula, who was talking about being a coach, and somebody having said to him, "Well, I don't think you'll be an amazing player, but I think you could be a really good coach." What do you think about the principle that somebody that's a really good player kind of having a wee bit of arrogance that they think, if you're not a particularly great player, why could you coach me? Do you get that? Do you see that?
I tried to avoid that type of person.
Right.
I went round the tournaments, and it was through a training session I had. I can still remember it yet at the YMCA. Somebody asked me to start a wee club in the area, and I started a wee club called the Friday Club. And
Where was this? Sorry, where was this, Andy?
sorry, in Grangemouth, and
Right.
where I stay now.
Right.
I wasn't born here. I was born at Ibrox. That's why I was wanting to delay the meeting today. I've been watching Rangers for the last half hour.
I
But I
see.
was born there. I'm not a glory hunter or anything. I was born out there.
I see.
But, so I started this wee club eventually. It was this chap who played lower down the team than myself. And he said, I think you should start coaching the juniors about here. So we started taking the juniors, and sports development started up here. A girl called Tricia Chillis and Drew Mickey with a really good sports development going. And there were some good youngsters came to classes that they had started. Jim Mailer from Stirling being one of them.
Yeah.
So Jim was attracting junior players because he was winning titles at the junior level. And this girl who came to my Friday club, she had already been a Scottish champion, but she was having off to have her second boy, as it so happened. And she turned up at the training one night with her husband, who was an internationalist, and she just said to me at the end, would you coach me? And I thought she meant, just can I come back to the coaching? And I said, yes, Joanna Flockert from Dunfermline area. Yes, Joanna, you can come back. And she said, no, but I want you to take me 3 times a week, personally.
One-on-one, yeah.
Now, I didn't know until about a month ago why she asked me, because I knew Johanna. She was in the same club as myself, but I didn't really have much dealings with her.
She was a Grangemouth girl, was she? Was she local to you?
Pardon?
Was she very local to you? Was she Grangemouth girl?
Yeah, just across the fourth there. Just New Milnes, it was actually. New Mills, I forget the name now, usually it's local. But so I said, okay, we'll have a go at it. So I started taking her 3 times a week, just the way we could fit things in with my work, because I was still playing football, running, bowling, tennis, and I was in a job that I enjoyed, bus driving. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and it was tremendous. But Joanna began to, almost right away, successful, a world medal, the first year at Malmo, Sweden, with Billy Gilliland from Greenock. So they got a mixed bronze there. The following year, she got a silver medal in the mixed doubles in the Commonwealth Games in Canada, Edmonton. And she just started to snowball, and she was attracting senior players, senior internationalists along. And I didn't need to go out and ask people, but I was turning up at tournaments. They didn't really know me before all this because they didn't know me as a player.
Yeah.
But we'd say, can I come along and try it? Or even Joanna, maybe if she thought this person was good enough to work with her, could Christine Black come along? It was Christine Heatley at the time. And that was the start. And already Anne Johnson, who came to me the year that Joanna was off having a baby, and Anne Johnson won the senior and junior girls' titles or ladies' titles that year, the first lady to do it. But I didn't have much to do that way. It was her old coach. She just turned up at the training with her brother, Jimmy Johnson. And so with the 3 top women in Scotland at the time, training together.
And that was all on the back of Joanna Flockett coming to you.
All in the back of Joanna Flockett, attracting the seniors, and the juniors, we had Russell Hogg coming over. We had Julie and Karen Stevenson, who still come to me yet, 40 years later.
Oh, wow.
Great kids, really brilliant.
Sorry, Andy, when were you doing this? When you were working all day, when were you doing this? And what age were you at that point? What age were you then?
I became full-time at 40. I was the first professional coach in Scotland.
Wow.
At 40 years of age, turned there.
So you gave up the buses?
I gave up everything.
You had no time, right?
Except badminton coaching, yeah.
So before that, when you had Joanna, and you were working at the same time, was it all evenings and weekends? Or when did she say, I'll come through? She was very local to you, I suppose. So
yeah, Grangemouth is very central, as you maybe know now, having been up here. Yeah. And people came from Perth, Dumfries, Glasgow, Edinburgh, from all round, because it was handy to get here. And I was off at certain times during the day, because when I joined the buses, I think I was 32 years of age. I'd been an office clerk for 14 years, took me to 28, with 2 years off for national service. And then I started a job with my badminton gents partner. He had a business, and they asked me to drive for him. So I drove selling sweeties and cigarettes. And, but I didn't like that. It wasn't my cup of tea. Believe it or not, selling things isn't my cup of tea.
Really?
I didn't have a job to go to, but the buses were advertising for people. And seemingly, if you worked for 6 weeks after sitting your test, it didn't cost you anything to get get the certificate. So I joined for 6 weeks, I thought, and I was there for 8 years. But the first 2 or 3 years, and this is true, I was starting at 4:30 in the morning, and I was finishing at 10:30 at night, nearly every day. So I was doing 4 hours in the house, not necessarily sleep, but 4 hours in the house. Now, I was married, my wife didn't work, and I had a 3-year family. But I had to get the pennies in. So there was a couple of years where I would just work. But the EU laws came in, and on the buses you weren't allowed to drive for too long.
That's right.
Hour-wise.
Like a lorry driver. Yeah. Like is that a tachometer kind of thing, is it?
Sorry?
A tachometer, isn't it?
Yeah, they didn't have that unless you were away on a long bus trip, a private one. But I was just sort of local for a while. But the good thing was the EU rules changed the driving shifts. So I got what they call a split shift. And I only really stayed 5 minutes away from the complex. So each shift I had, like in the morning would be 7 till 9. And that was you off until 12:30, something like that. 12:30 to 1:30. And then sort of 4 o'clock to 6:30. So you could work in the morning, you could work in the afternoon, you could work in the evening, and fit your bus driving in between. It was so knackering doing that and training and coaching.
Same time. And did you play very actively as well? You were coaching, but were you playing a club kind of thing? Did you run a club as well, was it?
I had this club, but any time that the good players were there, I just coached them. I didn't take part in that.
Andy, what is it? I don't mean to be funny, but you don't know if you know the answer to this. Why did Joanna Flockett ask you?
Why did she come to me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I didn't finish that story, did I? It was her that told me to. Her husband was taking her, Adi Flockett, who's a very good player himself, internationalist.
Right.
And she was telling me that he had a bad international against, I think it was Sweden, in Edinburgh. And he said to her, I'm not coaching anymore. In fact, I'm not playing anymore. And Joanna was left without somebody to play with. Because there wasn't a lot of coaching went on.
Was there not?
Early days. But so it was really strange because I'd never taken anybody personally to coach. So I was starting with a blank sheet of paper. There was nothing other than.
And can I ask how you did start?
Just by routines. I know I heard you saying in curling captain. She
Drills,
didn't like routines.
drills, yeah, drills.
It was the only way that I could, well, Joanna would get something out of it. Although I was playing at that time, and I was still able to play her at that time. So Monday she would come and we would do one shuttle work quite aerobically,
Right.
taking oxygen out the air.
Yeah.
And then the Tuesday we played a wee bit faster, but still routines. Right? Still knew where the shuttle was going, which helped me no end. But and then on Thursday, every Thursday we played, and that was a good thing. So we had the way I've been wanting to do it was stamina, speed, and play.
Right.
And every session I try and do that. Every week I try and do that. That the player in those days I had them peaking every week. Right? We talk about peaking, and they brought athletics coaches in, and peaking was one big tournament, say the All England. Now there was not much good at our players peaking for the All England because we hadn't much of a chance to even get past the first round. But every week up here, there was tournaments almost every week.
Sorry, what do you mean by peaking? What is that? What do you mean by peaking? Like basically train to be at their best, is it?
Say you had, say you had a tournament coming up in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
Right? There'd be special training. Forget about the other tournaments. You go into these other tournaments as part of your training, right? But the 1 year after, mentally, physically, is the one in 2-3 weeks' time. And you have got to get you ready for then.
And that's how you work. It's not like a continual routine. It's very much focused on every week getting to. And is there a big long plan week on week to this week we're going to do that and this week we're going to do that? Or were you quite methodical?
It becomes quite methodical, but you've got to think it up. What I found was making use of the players' strengths. Right, I didn't want to convince players that they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, they were weak on there. Nah, just play to their strengths and make them better at that. And that was the aim behind it. But all the players I got had brains. They were all very brainy. Like Joanna, for instance, had quite a few faults, as I was told often enough by the hierarchy. But she had the brains to cover those faults. And take the backhand, for instance. She could place the shuttle against the opposition, but they found it hard to play to her backhand.
I see.
And it's not.
So you're kind of talking about intelligence rather than just, you see them nowadays, they just seem to run all over the court, but not a huge amount of creativity, I would say. Is that what you're talking about? Brains like that? Is that what you're talking about? Knowing where somebody's uncomfortable and how to push somebody where they're not comfortable against them and that kind of thing.
When I was talking about the brains, Martin, was the fact that if Joanna was playing somebody, she is thinking all the time, where's the weakness? Okay, as she's coming off to speak to the coach later, who should be able to see things like that. But I always found the players could see it. The ones I had anyway, because they were thinkers. And it wasn't just a case of going on there and hitting the shuttle over the net. It was hitting the shuttle to certain places. Right? Some of them could hit the shuttle very hard, called a smash. Right? Some of them were brilliant at that. We had a player from Edinburgh, the first senior gent international, Gordon Hamilton from Edinburgh. Gordon had a powder puff smash, but his accuracy in the smash was tremendous.
Right.
And that makes a big difference, but if he could have played it faster to that certain bit, it might have made a bigger difference. But
amazing. Let's go back to some questions if I could. Because would you believe we're already 20 minutes in? So I think we're going to get to the first section at best. So this is definitely going to be a 2, maybe a 3 session, Andy. And we might have another few sessions at this. I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. So Andy, what's your home area then? Ibrox, did you say?
That's where I was born.
Oh,
a wee bit away from Ibrox, but I call it Ibrox to people that don't know Glasgow.
What's it called then? So what is the place called?
It was Cardonald.
Cardonald.
It's just along the road.
I can search it. That's cool. Do you have any brothers or sisters that you play with?
I have one sister, Mary, who was not interested in sport whatsoever. Mary loved sewing, knitting, baking, cooking, and playing with the hens that we had.
So was it a rural life on a farm or something?
Yeah, well, my father was, as it so happened, he became the youngest station master on the British on the railways
Really?
way back. Corker Hill was his first station, but
Well,
so we moved around an awful lot, all
did you?
over central Scotland.
Did
I
you?
had 3 primary schools before I got to secondary school, and I don't know how many places I stayed in, but quite a lot.
And that's
Started
why,
in
because the station master thing. And what? Sorry, what was your sister's name?
how old was my sister?
What was her name?
Mary.
Mary. Good.
Mary.
Thank you. Next question. I'm going to move on. What age were you when you first played badminton?
When I first played badminton, I was 16. And there's a wee story if you've got time to listen to this one.
Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Well, my next question is why and where did you start playing? So go on.
Okay, well, they'll come into both.
Okay.
My mother used to babysit for this couple in Carstairs. It's a wee village
I know.
in the Lanarkshire.
Yeah.
You know it, right? And the player the baby that she babysat was Jai A. Russell, called Alistair Russell,
Right.
who became a Scottish champion 1951, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So when my mum was reading the paper on the Monday afternoon, she said, "Oh, I used to babysit that chap," and she said, "Do you want to go and meet him sometime?" Because I didn't know what badminton was. I was 14, but it was never a sport for me, really. And I said, "Well, we could go in." So we went to the Corn Exchange in Edinburgh the following week, and Alistair was playing. So we spoke, and Alistair said, "Would you like to go and see better badminton?" I said, "Well, I said I quite enjoyed that." But he said, "Because I'm playing at the Kelvin Hall next Saturday. I'll meet you in Glasgow Station, and I'll take you along there, I'll plank you in a seat, and I'll pick you up, and I'll take you back to the train and send you back." Right? So that's what happened.
Wow.
Still not known about the badminton, and they always remember I'd watched Alistair play, not knowing much about the game. He had told me one or two wee things, but this chap came on. I think Kenny Anderson. I think he's from Australia or something like that. Long trousers, which some people had in those days, and I won it, and an old wooden racket, one like I started with.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be a really skilled player. This chap. Now, in those days, off the rim was a fault, right? And
So that again. Sorry, what was that?
if you hit it off the rim of the racket or the shaft of the racket or the handle, it's a fault.
Right.
So this Kenny Anderson was on there. Every shot he hit was off the rim of the racket, right? But at the end, he held his racket up and he put his hands through it. There was no strings in it at all. So I remember that.
Right.
So this was my introduction to badminton. But I was 14, but I lived in a wee place, called Addywell. All that's at Addywell now is a prison.
Yes.
But before it was a shell mine. And my dad moved stations to Manuel Junction, which is Whitecross, near enough, just up the road from where I stay now.
So were you living in houses that were on the side of the railway, one of them on the station?
Always next to the railway. Yeah.
Really? Wow. So, and do you live next to a train station now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet you quite like it, I bet you quite like that. That's funny. Do you remember your first ever racket, Andy?
Yes, it was one that my mother had, and it had the old head press on it. It was a wooden one, the same as that Ken Anderson played with. But when I was going on to that when I was 14, coming back, when we moved house from Addywell to say Grangemouth, right? Work-wise, that's what it was. So at the work, this chap said to me, "Do you play badminton?" I says, "No." He says, "Would you like to play badminton?" I'm going to give it a hit. See, my last chap played first gent for the badminton team. And he said, "Right," he says, "they say you're going away home," because I just cycled from this place. It was about 4 miles away and back. So at 5, we stopped at 5 in the office. At 6 o'clock, the hall we were going to play in opened up. It was the recreational hall for the BP, right? And it didn't start until 7, the club, but the hallkeeper let us in at 6. So this chap took me in from 6 till 7, scaled me for months, to give me 14 a start, playing to 15, and he would beat me. That was getting closer and closer. You know, the rallies were getting better. But it was just playing. There was no coaching, and it was quite a good hall compared to some of the halls in the area.
Yes.
But we couldn't do a lot of high serving or clearing high. It was all sort of attacking shots,
Driving, yeah,
drives and things like that. But it was quite a good hall. But I just got better and better through that. So that was really.
What was his name, Andy?
Tommy Robertson was the name of the chap that started me off. But he wasn't a player as such. He just was a local.
I'm over here. That's interesting. Yeah.
No, it was quite good, and that was the first club. So it was the BP Refinery Club.
The BP. That was your first BP Refinery Club.
Yes.
Wow. Does that still exist? I guess not.
Not now, but just recently closed. Yeah, the hall closed. They changed. They went into different premises, but
I've just realised you're answering the questions before I've asked them.
all right, that's good.
You're cheating me. What was the hall like? You've answered that. What was the name of the club? Do you remember how much it cost?
Well, the cost-wise, it was quite a good thing, actually. It didn't cost much money at all.
Wasn't it?
And I heard Colin on about the plastic shuttles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never played with a plastic shuttle.
Didn't you?
Because at the refinery, and there was a lot, maybe 1,000 or 2 people working down there. They all paid something towards the upkeep of the recreational side of things. So we got the hall for nothing. We got the shuttles for nothing, which were RSL tourney. And the plastic never came to mind at all, actually.
Will you stop answering my questions before I've asked them? You just got the next one.
Sorry about that.
What kind of shuttles did you use? RSL Tony. Yep, brilliant. And sorry, okay, the next question was, which you can see, is when were you coached?
Sorry?
When were you coached?
When was I coaching?
When were you coached?
Where was I? I was never coached.
Were you not?
No, other than that chap take me along to start me off. You know, that's all. But there was no coaching. Wasn't he telling me how to hold it? Well, he told me what end to hold it.
Do you remember when you first... Okay, I'm going to ask you these questions because I've got some more questions about coaching. Do you remember your first ever tournament? Did you play in any tournaments?
Yeah, well, the BP had a tournament in this wee hall that I started in. And they used to have a tournament every year. And the first 2 or 3 years I was nowhere with it. But and then when I came out the forces, I'd been playing in the forces.
Had you?
And it got much better. And I won the wee singles tournament 3 years in the trot in that club, the BP club.
The BP club. How many people went to that club back in the day? Do you remember how busy it was?
When it was, did you say?
How busy it was? Was it a busy club? And how many times a week was it on?
It was Mondays and Wednesdays we played, and 2 hours, 7 till 9. But that was the thing for the first 2 or 3 months. This chap would send me away when the club came in, you know. So we were hitting about.
I see.
Right, you'll have to go home now
because the grown-ups are coming. Good. What was your what was your event? Were you a singles player? Do you think?
I liked singles, but there wasn't nobody else in the area. I don't think liked singles. And it was quite hard to get practicing.
So did you have a doubles partner when you went to?
Yes, that was a good thing. I mean, you're thinking of something about expenses or money, the cost in badminton. See, for that badminton, the workers paying for most things. And that includes a lot of trips down to London and Wales, representing VP Scotland. And then they would come up here. But we were getting £3.50 to go away. It was like professionals for a wee while.
You were getting paid to go.
Yeah. And then when I moved jobs to work with my pal, he paid for all my badminton fees as part of the wages. because the wages weren't that high. But so badminton wasn't costing me money. And then when I started taking Joanna and that, sponsors came into it. And I think this old shirt of mine is about 40 years old. One of the first ones I sponsored. I mean, I've had others.
Of course.
This is my favourite one. You have a favourite shirt.
Of course. Well, that's what a nice memory that you've been given something for doing what you love doing. I suppose is when a sponsor comes in, what they sponsor you as a coach.
Yes, I never as a player. No, we're never that daft.
How does that? So effectively, is that them trying to get you to sell their wares to the people that you're coaching?
Yes. And you should be not only taking the tournament players, but was taking sports development classes.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and you're working with 40 youngsters 2-3 times a week, so you're on show.
Yeah.
And you're very interested.
Everybody's asking what kind of racket you've got, and what kind of shoes you've got, and what kind of tray.
That's right. Yeah, they knew better than me.
Who was the best? Who was your first sponsor then? Do you remember?
The first one was Vicourt.
Vicourt. I've heard that name. I don't actually know if they still go, do they?
I don't know either. No.
I don't see them. And so my final question, I think I'm going to leave it with this question, which is, what was your main competition growing up? Was it who did you try and beat? Who drove you to get better at singles? Was it that guy you mentioned? The guy, was it Tommy Robertson you mentioned? Who did you used to play against?
Yeah, he wasn't really a tournament player either. He was just somebody that started me off. And
who did you? I'm always interested in. There's normally special singles players. There's somebody just above you that you're beating and you're playing all the time, and you're desperate to beat him, and and he drives you to get better. Who was that? Or did you have anyone like that as a singles player?
Nobody that would be known to other players.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who was it. Doesn't matter who was it. Doesn't matter who was it.
Tommy Cornwall was his name. He played with the local YMCA, who eventually I finished up playing with here, because that was a step up from the BP club. Because I came up to the local YMCA, and we went 8 or 9 years without losing. We just with good ladies. Let's put it this way: we had good ladies.
So, have you ever had that? I think I asked you a question earlier on about coaching exceptional players. That you've obviously played. You're very competitive, and you've obviously played. Your own, and you've taken on to coaching, and then so why? I guess the obvious question is why? Why did they choose you? Was there not much choice, and then why did? I guess it was Joanna Flockett became successful, and then other people said, "I wonder if he could teach me," and then da 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 da. Is that what happens?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it's she attracted the seniors, as I said, and Jim Miller attracted the juniors, and it was ideal when we had sports development classes going on. But one of the good things was every school in the area, and there's quite a number of schools in our area.
Yes,
they all played badminton after school.
Did they?
And the teachers or the parents of the children, they helped, because even though they couldn't play, they started them off. And with these other classes, they were sent to other classes. I got a lot of the credit for the coaching of them that I didn't really deserve. Because it was these people at the lower level, at the first rung of the ladder, I always said, and it's an important one. It was them that started them off. There was a wee club in California, not the one in the States, the one here. The court was squeezed in to the hall, but the women had these people geared up, and they actually won the Scottish Primary Quake.
Really?
And they didn't really have a hall to play in, and it was very, very small. It was like, well, I've got quite a long kitchen here. It was smaller than that. But she was so keen, and these youngsters, I don't know if it was the fact they were from a wee mining village or ex-mining village, and had this bit of grit about them. And of course, after they won it, a big meal here, and I got invited along. But I told them the same. It wasn't me that won it. They won it, and your teacher was the main one. She was brilliant.
And what was it about so did you prefer bringing on people from the beginning stages, or do you prefer when somebody came to you and they're well advanced?
Well, I preferred them being advanced.
Did you?
Yeah, but I had a lot of help as well from various people.
Go on.
Johnny Barry, MBE. I was
Johnny
talking
Barry,
about
yeah.
routines. Johnny Barry gave me a routine. I was coaching under 13s in Edinburgh with him.
Yeah.
He said, Andy, I thought a wee routine to do with Jill. That was his daughter.
Aye, that's right.
Jill Smith now. But he gave me this routine, which I still use
Really?
40 odd years, maybe 45 years after Johnny gave me it, because I just changed wee bits here and there.
Yes.
And then from that, I devised dozens and dozens of other exercises. So Johnny Barry gave me the stamina routines. That's what I called them. But there was this Malaysian coach, Punch Gunalan. He was working at the complex where I was working out of, and he was showing them a routine, sticking the shuttle on one end of the net, sticking the shuttle on the other. So you needed two people, one at each end, right? And he would go like the clappers, brushing it off. You had to stick it on, and he was there sometime before they even had it stuck on. But and from there, I devised dozens and dozens of speed exercises because I thought, well, I can't go and stick the shuttle on there and stick the shuttle on there and there and there. Sometimes do it when I've got plenty of people there. So I throw the shuttle or stand at the back of the court and hit the shuttle with the racket.
So you'd be balancing the shuttle on the net cord?
Yeah, sticking it on the net cord, and it was brushing it off. But all the speed work came from there. And I devised singles ones and doubles ones just to make the player faster. And it's a case of teasing them. You know, you're not always going to throw at the same speed, because if I was throwing for you and you were really fast, I would have to throw fast. Yes. But you can get somebody else in, maybe your pal, who's not as fast as you. No good to me throwing at the same speed as yourself, right? I throw it so he's just working harder than what he would normally do. And but these were the two people, mainly Johnny Barry.
Did you, apart from Johnny Barry, was there official coaching, Andy? Was there somebody that taught you how to coach, or did you learn it, make it? What happened?
That was me. I was just picking it up for some reason. Well, my dad was a great one. I don't think he was really involved in Keep Fit or anything to do with exercise and that, but he made me exercise. He got on his bike, and I got on a tracksuit top and a towel in my neck and shorts and wee plimsolls, but like these flip-flop things. And he used to go around the roads kidding on I was a boxer, and then he would stop on the bike and make me do press-ups, and then chins on the tree, stomach exercise in a dry bit of grass.
At what age are you talking here? What age? What age?
What age? That would be 13 at that time.
So this is just before the badminton, really? Wow.
Yeah, it was just.
So do you put a lot of emphasis into fitness? Particularly fitness.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about diet and that kind of thing? And how do you influence what a player's doing when they're not with you?
Well, I don't really know what they do, Martin, and I never really got all that involved. I've never got that close, really close to a player.
Yeah, really.
I haven't really changed players much. It's just I made them fitter.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier if a player can go on the court and no need to think about, well, what do I do with my feet here and what do I do with my hands here? And like the golfer, who's got 60, 150 things from the top of the swing to the bottom. You don't want that. But no, that was my main, they all had talent. All the players that came to me were talented. And
I wonder if when you're driving, when you're coaching these people, if you're imagining your dad on his bike and you jog along with Rocky Balboa, and you're now the guy on the bike.
That's it. That's the changeover. But where we stayed at Addiewell was with a massive big field. They built me a steeplechase course. And not every night, but 2 or 3 times a week, I had to go so many times around this water jump and Beecher's Brook and if there was never any trains stopped on a Sunday at the station, and he used to make me bunny jump from one end of the platform and try and reach the other end. I'd never actually made it to the other end, but that was my aim, was to get there. And No wonder that I suffer now, really.
So if you get coaching with Andy Cooke, you know you're going to get a hard time. You're going to come out breathing. Yeah,
It's funny you should say that, Martin, because that's if anybody asked anybody to come along,
yes,
they more or less said to them, "Now look, it's going to be hard, and
right.
if you don't work, it'll not have anything to do with you." That was really it, because to me, somebody that doesn't try, that is when I could lose the head at them.
Yeah,
I very rarely have I ever done it, but if they don't try, you feel like saying, "Why are you here?" You
yeah.
know, I want you to be trying 100%. I don't care if you fall over your feet, but
Yeah.
try.
Listen, I'm going to leave it at that. I've had my time warning. I'm going to leave it at that for now. But if we're okay, I would like to do the same time next Saturday.
Next Saturday, yeah, it should be all right. Yeah,
We'll speak again through the week. I think this time's pretty good, but I've got a lot more to talk about. So next Saturday, episode 2. All right.
it's the 3 or 3:30, Martin.
Same time, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. I'm sorry
Three
about
o'clock.
that. I'm sorry about
Okay.
that. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. That's awesome. That's
Bye.
great, Andy. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
Bye.